Hello, everybody. Russ on the West End Network. Hope you're all safe and well. Hope your evening's going well. If you're new and give it a like, give it a comment, give it a share, give it a subscribe. The West Ham news does not stop. So much so we've got a little extra show, just a few extra bits of information, extra news stories that are broken today. It's been a busy day. Anton did a show beginning of the morning talking about life without Lucas Paqueta, if the deal to Man City happens, by all accounts. Kevin De Bruyne will be out to possibly March. So if you've got him in his fantasy football league, get him out straight away and get someone else in. So maybe they could be turning to him as their go-to, as long as same as Jeremy Doku from Rennes, who we played the other day. Was it Rennes? Well, yeah, I think so. Yeah, the Belgian forward, very good player. And then we got the news from Jacob Steinberg that the deal for Harry Maguire was off. I'm saying inverted comments because I still think there's a smoke and mirrors in that statement because it's come from Jacob rather than the Fabrizio, for example, as the first port of call. That's the way I always sort of look at it in terms of the reliability of information that comes out and who will give him that information, basically. And there was mentioning Jonathan Tah was one of the names who could potentially fill that transfer void in terms of who we're going to get in that centre back position. He was one of the first names featured in the Rusty Rumour Roundup on lunchtime. Some great names, including Santiago Jimenez, the final striker, Mexican international final striker. Now, just think back, have we just signed someone from the Eredivisie who's a Mexican international? Quite possibly. 2 and 2 together make 4 potentially. And then at Hammer's Headlines, we spoke about the Fabianski fuming interview from Chanel Plus, as well as Mikel Antonio's £9.5 million offer from Saudi Pro League side. 4.75 million a season for the 33-year-old. Can't take that money down, can you? But there's been even more news and developments in the last bit, so we thought we'd bring you some extra news to have over your dinner. Not have over your dinner, eat. Listen to while you're having your dinner in the UK, of course. Let's start with the thumbnail. Let's talk about Kieran Tierney. Now, according to the Daily Express, West Ham are apparently rivaling Real Sociedad in terms of approaching Arsenal for the 26-year-old left-back Scottish international. Real Sociedad apparently, and again, Real Sociedad is quite funny because obviously David Moyes, manager, also Mikel Arteta, has links to Real Sociedad as well. Apparently, they were looking for a loan deal for Kieran Tierney. They were approached by Real Sociedad for a loan deal. West Ham are very interested, apparently. Whether it's a cash deal or a loan to buy, we do not know. I'm sure Arsenal probably need the money, to be honest, because they still owe us 100. Well, they paid the first bit, so they still owe us 70-odd million quid. But we'll see about that. 26-year-old has been out of favour at Arsenal. He lost his place to Zinchenko at the beginning of last season, and hasn't really got back into the side, really. He was out of the squad completely for the Nottingham Forest game at the weekend, and clearly needs game time and clearly needs to move elsewhere, and he's not in Mikel Arteta's plans. He's a Scot, so that helps Moyes. He's Premier League proven as well, which helps Moyes. No doubt Moyes will be aware of him during his Celtic days, being a former Celtic man himself. So there's lots of boxes ticked there. Obviously, you've been linked with several other fullbacks, left fullbacks particularly, including Ian Marston from Chelsea. But Kieran does possess that Premier proven sort of attribute which Moyes probably rates over everything else, in honesty. So keep an eye on that, particularly I think towards the end of the transfer window. Obviously, the whole thing around Aaron Cresswell's moving potentially to Wolves is dependent on us getting another left back in. Could Kieran be the answer? Let me know in the comments below. Another person who could be the answer is the Man United defender Alvaro Fernandez. According to several outlets, including the Spanish journalist, and his name is also Alvaro Guerrero, they claim that West Ham are one of several sides looking at the Man United left back. Apparently, there's us and Burnley, and who else? Us, Burnley, Grenada, Las Palmas, Espanyol, Eintracht Frankfurt. They're all looking to potentially bring in Alvaro, who's quoted at around 4.5 to 5 million quid. Now, it's similar to Kieran, actually. He's game time is somewhat curtailed this season with Luke Shaw and also Terrell Malachi as well in terms of fighting for that left back slot. So he wants to move to get first team football. And by the sounds of it, Man United aren't going to get in his way. I mean, he's very much Tim Steindl, isn't it, really, in terms of young, you'd triple, quadruple your money, no problem at all, with playing half decent, even more so. For 5 million quid, you could be getting 30, 35 million in a few years, no problem at all. He's highly regarded at Man United, but just the progress of two people ahead of him means he's not going to get any game time, and he wants to leave. He wants to apparently get first team football. At the age of 20, I think it may be a little bit too early to start demanding things like that. Harrison Ashby, that worked out for well. He actually went on loan last year at Preston North End, had a really, really good spell on his, I don't know if you've seen much of him, but he's quick. He's got good technique, good defensively as well. And he has all the attributes potentially to be one of the best fullbacks in Europe, in all honesty. He's that good. And Steidlen's looking for the brightest, youngest talents across Europe and beyond. And he represents a really good opportunity. And getting him at a younger age, particularly with Emerson's, getting time to develop. And also you've got Ollie Scarles as well there. You could have some really good. That could be a fullback sorted for the next 10 years. Realistically, it won't happen because it's too much forward thinking, but it could happen. Yeah, it could do. Sure. And monkeys might fall on my butt. From Waynesfield. And finally, let's talk about David Moyes. We've talked about lots of other things in terms of, just recruitments of players, but what about recruitment of staff? Beginning of the summer, we lost Warburton quite early on. And then we lost Paul Nevin, and nothing's really happened. But it's all sort of the last sort of day or so that it's all sort of ramped up a little bit. So Moyes was quoted and was mentioned by, I think, X on his Patreon that he was bringing in. He was talking to lots of people, has held meetings for a couple, and probably closing on doing something. X reported that one of them could be Henry Newham, a former opposition coach and youth scouts. And then I think Sean and Clarence, who did a bit of digging on him, who's a 33-year-old, who basically joined Barnet in 2009 as assistant coach for the under-18s, then went to while completing a degree at the same time. Left Barnet to become under-15 coach at Charlton, and then later coached Brentford before rejoining Barnet again. So he's sort of been in and out of the game. But also, we've just been informed by, it's been reported by ex-WH employee that the under-23, under-21 head coach Mark Robson is potentially going to be promoted to the first team setup. There was talk of him leaving to join Gary O'Neill's Wolves Revolution, but apparently West Ham have offered him a place on the bench. So whether that's as a result of the Gary O'Neill, didn't want to lose him, and actually he wanted first team football in terms of being around the first team setup, and we've offered him that to make sure we keep him in the setup. Obviously, West Ham fan as well. We've had him on the channel. Lovely bloke as well. Really, really nice guy. Done really good work with the academy, as well as the likes of Potsy and Mark Phillips and Kevin Keane and various others. And so it could be one or the both. Apparently, we've also been linked with a unnamed coach who previously coached at Getafe in La Liga, but it could be one of several people, and I have no idea if any of these are. It could be Alberto Gerardes, David Cabello, or Antonio Diaz, or none of them, more likely. And it could just be Mark Robson coming in and this other lad, Henry Newham, named after the district, no doubt, where West Ham was in. But obviously, he coming from Barnet, he may well have worked with Robson, maybe potentially. I don't know. Just putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 12 as per usual. But let me know in the comments. It's nice to see that actually there's some movement on the coaching front as well, because that's another concern, obviously, particularly with Nevin going. That was a huge, miss to the squad. Not so much Warburton, I think, because Warburton's only a short amount of time, but definitely Paul Nevin. And, as I said, and actually it's not, and thinking about it as well, the appointment of Mark Robson, if he goes pushed up into the first team, he'll have a hands-on working knowledge of everyone in that academy, really, or at least the ones on the conveyor belt ready to come up. So he'll be, hopefully, he'll be, imagine he'll be pushing these youngsters to David in terms of offering them potential in terms of moving up in the pathway. I know that's Nobes does it. We've got the committee and things like that, but still, it's having another voice there, but in the inner sanctum of the first team backroom staff. You know me, clutching at straws, just clutching at straws. We'll be back tomorrow with the daily shows, Hammers headlines, and any breaking news. If anyone else is falling out of anyone else, or anyone else is slagging off Moyes because they're not getting any first team football, we'll bring all that straight away. But make sure the only way you can make sure you don't miss anything is by hitting the bell notification, subscribing, maybe become a channel member. We've had a complete rush of channel members in the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks. So thank you very, very much, all supporting the channel in a different way. And so take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble. Have a lovely rest of the evening. And I'll see you guys very, very soon. Ta-ta for now, my friend.